This is a video on the kinds of assessment that I do, and the unusualness of my assessments compared to Harvard University professor assessments and Yankee Group assessments and McKinsey assessments. I operate at a level of comprehensiveness, variety, and detail completely beyond them by usually 2 orders of magnitude. I'm much more specific than they are, much more comprehensive than they are, and with much more variety than they use. Now, what do I assess? I assess which of 60 models of creativity you use, you lack, and you hinder. Which of 60 models of innovation you use, you lack, and you hinder. And how much, the degree to which you use or hinder. I assess 256 system effects. Which of them you are aware of, plan for, and have systems for handling, which ones you ignore, and which ones affect your products and your intentions, and which ones don't. 192 dimensions of any culture. The culture of devices I measure, the culture of leaders I measure, the culture of organizational units and groups I measure, and culture of users and how they interact. The flaws in thought, 180 flaws in thought, which of them you suffer from, which ones you don't suffer from, which ones you have countermeasures for, which ones you don't compensate for, and that therefore hurt your results. 120 Silicon Valley dynamics, which of them you have, which of them you don't have, which of them you hinder, which of them you don't hinder, the degree to which you have them or hinder them. And then finally, the fundamental functions of leadership, 64 or 128 of those I assess. And how much of each is being delivered to each part of your organization, and how intensely, with what quality is it being delivered. Now, those are the assessments. One of the final report forms, which will give you an image of how I operate, is this is a final report for a company here in Tokyo on 60 models of creativity, 60 models of innovation, which they have, which they don't have. There are 2 bars for each creativity or innovation model, and a set of numbered boxes which show the degree of presence or absence or blockage. And so you'll have lots of creativity dynamics simply missing, and lots of innovation dynamics simply missing. And in spite of that, you'll have huge blocks to them, even though they're not present. It's sort of chicken and the egg, whether they're not there because of the blocks or whether they're not there because people don't know about them and don't have the habit of using them. The latter is probably more true than the former. The blocks are there simply because innovation and creativity in general are blocked by the way organizations structure themselves to consistently deliver a product across a variable workforce and globe and variable market conditions. This is the culture assessment, the culture of the Apple iPhone 4S on 192 dimensions. And you see a series of bars there and blocks. And over here, you'll see right here 64 actual components of the iPhone 4S. And then what's blocked or hindered or supported, what the culture is of each of those elements. It takes about 3 months to do an assessment for a few hundred people, anywhere from 50, which I think is the smallest group, or actually one individual. I sometimes assess individual executives, or an executive and a team of 6. But more often I'm doing all direct reports to a series of reports to an executive. So an executive will have 5 people reporting to them. Each of them will have 5 people reporting. So it'll be 25 or 30 people to 50 people. Occasionally I do larger groups, like I did an entire R&D organization of about 1,200 people. That didn't take longer. It just meant we had to distribute things more widely and give more context more widely. I did have to give speeches a little bit more to introduce stuff. The nice thing about my assessments is that you get the culture of your device or of your leader or of your organization or of your users along 192 dimensions instead of 8. And so much more specific and actionable results than you get when you do the hot steed 8 dimensions of culture and our device is communal. What the heck does that mean? How do I do anything about that? It's too vague in general to be actionable. whereas I give you a level of specificity that is actionable. Similarly, 180 flaws in thought, very, very specific, much more specific than any of my competitors deal with. 60 models of innovation, 20 models of creativity. My competitors assess one model at Harvard. They assess one model. If you don't create their way, they don't measure it. And it really ticks off R&D guys because they just see the instrument that's measuring them is useless and biased. And this is what they do.